I was sitting on the bathroom floor at 2:17 a.m., staring at a phone that was never meant for me. My hands were shaking. My heart felt like it had dropped out of my chest. One message changed my entire life. My husband wasn't just cheating. He was living a second life. And in that moment, I had two choices: destroy everything, or find a way to survive myself. The night I found out, the house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my own breathing. My name is Angela Morris, and for 18 years, I believed I had a faithful marriage. I believed love meant loyalty. I believed trust was unbreakable. I was wrong. It wasn't suspicion that led me there. It was instinct. A quiet voice inside me that said, something is off. My husband, David, had been distant. Not cruel. Not angry. Just gone. Smiling at his phone. Working late. Saying all the right words but no longer meaning them. When I opened that phone, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I went numb. Photos. Messages. Plans. Inside jokes that weren't ours anymore. I remember thinking, so this is how hearts break. Not loudly, but completely. That night, David confessed. No excuses. Just tears. Just shame. He said it had been going on for a year. A whole year of lies layered on top of prayers, dinners, and Sunday mornings. I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling, asking God one question over and over again. Why me? In the weeks that followed, everyone had advice. Leave him. Get revenge. He doesn't deserve you. And maybe they were right. I was angry. I was humiliated. As a black woman, I already carried enough weight in the world. Now I was carrying betrayal inside my own home. But what no one talks about is the loneliness of being cheated on. Friends check in for a while, then they move on. The world expects you to be strong. But strength feels very different when you're brushing your teeth next to the person who broke you. I started therapy not to save my marriage, but to save myself. Sitting in that small room every week, I finally said things out loud I had buried for years. I realized the affair wasn't just about David. It cracked open parts of me I had ignored. My fear of abandonment, my habit of shrinking to keep peace, my belief that love required suffering. There were days I wanted revenge. I imagined walking away and watching him beg. I imagined success being my payback. But every time I followed that thought, it left me empty. Revenge didn't heal. It just kept the wound open. One session, my therapist asked me a question that changed everything. Angela, do you want justice, or do you want peace? I didn't answer right away. Because peace felt like letting him off the hook. Peace felt unfair. But peace also felt like freedom. Forgiveness didn't come quickly. It came slowly. In pieces. Some days I forgave him. Other days I hated him again. Forgiveness is not a straight line. It's a daily decision. David did the work too. Real work. Transparency. Counseling. Accountability. I didn't forgive him because he deserved it. I forgave him because I deserved healing. One night, months later, I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She was tired. Older. But stronger. Softer in a new way. I realized something powerful. His betrayal did not define my worth. That realization changed my life. I began writing. First in journals. Then online. I shared my story, not to glorify forgiveness, but to tell the truth about pain. Women started messaging me. Black women especially. Stories of infidelity, silence, shame. We had been suffering quietly for too long. I started hosting small healing circles at my church. No judgment. No pressure to stay or leave. Just space to feel. To breathe. To speak. Some women chose divorce. Some chose reconciliation. All chose themselves. Forgiveness didn't erase what happened. It transformed it. I stopped replaying the messages in my head. I stopped checking phones. I stopped punishing myself for trusting someone I loved. Today, my marriage is different. Not perfect, but honest. And even if it hadn't survived, my healing would have. Because this story isn't really about infidelity. It's about what happens after. It's about a woman learning that her heart can break and still beat. That pain can become purpose. That forgiveness is not weakness. It is power under control. If you're watching this and you're in that dark place, sitting on the bathroom floor with a phone you wish you never opened, hear me clearly. You are not foolish. You are not broken. And you are not alone. Healing does not mean forgetting. It means choosing yourself every day. And sometimes, the bravest thing a woman can do is forgive, not for them, but for her own freedom. Some people will never understand your choice to forgive. Let them misunderstand. Peace doesn't need permission. Your healing is not up for debate. And your story is not over yet. Forgiveness is not about excusing betrayal. It is about refusing to let pain control your future. True healing begins when you choose peace over punishment. The hardest part of forgiveness was not saying the words. The hardest part was living them. After the counseling sessions ended and the church prayers slowed down, real life began again. Mornings still came. Bills still needed to be paid. Smiles still had to be worn outside. But inside, I was rebuilding a house that had burned down. Some days I woke up confident, peaceful, proud of myself. Other days, a single smell, a song on the radio, or a random notification sound could send my heart racing. Trauma does not ask permission. It arrives unannounced. David tried to be patient. Sometimes he succeeded. Sometimes he failed. There were moments when his frustration showed, and I had to remind him gently but firmly, "You broke this." Healing takes time. He learned to listen without defending himself. That was new for both of us. What surprised me most was how forgiveness changed me more than it changed him. I stopped living in survival mode. I stopped shrinking my emotions to keep other people comfortable. For the first time in my life, I spoke clearly about what I needed. Peace made me honest. Pain had taught me courage. But not everyone supported my choice. Some friends pulled away quietly. Others were more direct. I could never forgive that. "You're too soft. He'll do it again." Their words stung, but I understood. Forgiveness threatens people who are still carrying old wounds. My healing held up a mirror they didn't want to look into. I learned something important during that time. Not everyone deserves front row access to your healing journey. I kept moving forward anyway. I began studying emotional trauma more deeply. I read about attachment, betrayal wounds, and generational pain. I learned how many Black women grow up believing strength means silence. How we are taught to endure instead of heal. How we are praised for surviving pain but rarely supported in processing it. That knowledge changed how I saw myself. I wasn't weak for staying. I wasn't weak for forgiving. I wasn't weak for needing help. I was human. Slowly, the story stopped being about what David did, and became about who I was becoming. I started speaking at women's groups, then community centers, then small conferences. I never told anyone what choice to make. I only told the truth. Healing is not one size fits all. Some marriages end. Some transform. Some people forgive and still walk away. All paths are valid when chosen from self-respect, not fear. One woman came up to me after a talk, tears running down her face. She said, "I thought forgiveness meant losing myself. You showed me it can mean finding myself." That moment confirmed something deep in my spirit. My pain had not been wasted. At home, David and I continued the work. We rebuilt trust brick by brick. Transparency became non-negotiable. Accountability became daily. Love became intentional. Not the careless love we had before, but a mature one, aware of its fragility. I learned to ask hard questions. He learned to answer without hiding. We learned that love is not proven by words after betrayal. It is proven by consistency. There were still setbacks. Forgiveness does not erase memory. Anniversaries of discovery brought emotions back. Certain places felt heavy. Instead of running from those feelings, I learned to sit with them. Feelings lose power when you stop fighting them. One night, almost 2 years after the affair ended, I realized something quietly powerful. I was no longer checking his phone. Not because I forced myself not to, but because I no longer needed to. Trust had grown naturally, not through control, but through time and truth. That was the moment I knew healing had truly begun. But the biggest change was inside me. I stopped defining myself by my roles. Wife. Caregiver. Strong one. I started asking, who is Angela when no one needs her to be anything? The answer surprised me. I was creative. I was reflective. I was compassionate. I was worthy of peace. Forgiveness gave me my voice back. I started advocating publicly for emotional wellness, especially in Black communities where therapy is often seen as weakness. I spoke about how unhealed pain shows up as anger, silence, control, or depression. I spoke about how spirituality and therapy can work together, not against each other. Some people listened. Some resisted. But seeds were planted. There was one moment that stands out clearly. A young woman emailed me late one night. She said she was sitting in her car outside her house, afraid to go inside because she had just found proof of her husband's affair. She wrote, "I don't know what to do. But your story stopped me from hurting myself tonight." I cried when I read that message. That was when I understood the responsibility of telling the truth. Not a polished version. Not a perfect ending. But the real journey. The messy middle. The slow healing. Forgiveness did not make me forget the pain. It taught me how to carry it without letting it crush me. Today, I do not call myself the woman who was cheated on. I call myself a woman who chose healing over bitterness, growth over ego, peace over revenge. And I am not special. I am not rare. Any woman can do this when given support, space, and permission to feel. If you are watching this and standing at the edge of a decision, let me say this clearly. Forgiveness is not required. Staying is not required. Leaving is not failure. Healing is the goal, not proving anything to anyone. Your life does not end at betrayal. Sometimes, it begins there. I don't know what the future holds for my marriage. No one ever does. But I know who I am now. And that knowledge is unshakable. I am whole. I am free. And I am no longer afraid of pain, because I know what I can turn it into.